really excited to introduce you to our 7th grade confirmation class from last year. We have for 25 years done the Night of the Notables. This class studies Old Testament characters and their relationship to God over the course of the year, and they are allowed to choose a character that they would like to present. And so we're going to do it in the kind of form where they're going to tell you their story and let you guess who they are. This class is, we have Kate and Miles and Tony and Hunter and Wyatt and Brandon and Drew and Zach. And we're really excited to share this with you. Jana and Myrna and I have really enjoyed these kids, and we'd like to share them with you.
I was from the city of Ur in Mesopotamia. God asked me to leave my home and country and go to the promised land, and in return God would give me descendants in a great nation. So I did as God asked. I went to Canaan, the land he promised. I brought my father Terah and my wife Sarah. My wife Sarah and I grew old, but we didn't have any children to become a great nation. So I had a child with my wife's servants, Ishmael. But he wasn't the one God planned to carry on the great nation. Finally, when we were 90 and 99, God blessed us with a son named Isaac. God tested me by asking me to sacrifice my only son, that I didn't have to go through with it. I was called a man of great faith, and I was the father of the Jewish, Arab, and Christian nations. Who am I?
I was born in Jerusalem. My father was the second king of Israel. I wasn't the oldest son, so I wasn't supposed to inherit the throne. But God promised my mother that I would be king. When my father died, I was anointed the third king of Israel. I prayed to God because I didn't know how to be a good king. God told me he would grant me anything I needed. I asked for wisdom, which made God very happy. People came from all over to seek advice from me. I built a beautiful temple dedicated to God. It was made out of the best wood and gold. I worked really hard at being king and made my country rich. People came from all over to see how rich and powerful I was. The famous Queen Sheba came bringing all kinds of gifts for me, and I sent gifts back with her. She was amazed to see what Israel was like under my rule. I was a really good king for Israel, but I had one downfall that destroyed my kingdom. In the end, I married princesses and women all over the place. I had 700 wives and 300 concubines. To make them happy, I would worship their foreign gods with them. God took the kingdom away from me, but not until after I died, and thank of my father, who was really a good man. Then it will split apart forever. Who am I?
I was from the city of Oprah, the son of Joas. The Midianites started to invade Israel. They stole our crops and drove us out of our home. One day, as I was working collecting some wheat, I was surprised when an angel came and sat under an oak tree. He told me that God had asked me to save the Israelites from the Midianites. The first thing I did was tear down the altar of Baal. This made the Israelites angry, but they rallied around me after a while. Then God asked me to get an army together to take down the Midianites. So I sent messengers out and asked men to come join me. 32,000 men showed up. God thought that was too many. He wanted the Israelites to know that the Midianites were defeated by God's power and not the large number of men. I told whoever was afraid to go home. 22,000 men left. Still, God thought that was too many. I told the 10,000 men left to go down to the river to get a drink of water. 9,300 men set down their spears and put their heads down to drink. 300 kept their weapons and watched around as they drank. These are the ones I kept because they kept alert and would be good soldiers. We surrounded a huge Midianite camp and waited until dark. Then we lit candles and put them in jars. While everyone was sleeping, we snuck in and threw the jars and blew trumpets. The Midianites were so afraid that they ran around in confusion and fought each other. And God gave me complete victory over the Midianites. I always did what God asked of me, and He helped me drive the Midianites and their false gods out of Israel. I was one of Israel's judges. Who am I?
I was born the 11th out of 12 sons. I was my father's favorite because he only loved my mother out of his 4 wives. I had dreams that my 11 brothers would bow down to me. My father gave only me a really neat coat that was made out of many colors. This made my brothers really jealous. They sold me into slavery and I had to go to Egypt. They told my father that I died. When I got to Egypt, I was sold to Potiphar, who was the captain of the guard, and he liked me so much I was promoted to head of his household. Then I was thrown into prison again because of false charges. While I was in prison, I found out that I could read people's dreams. I read the dreams of some of Potiphar's servants. When Pharaoh started having bad dreams, he called me. I told him that his dreams meant there would be 7 years of good crops and then 7 years of famine. I told him that he should save up a lot of grain during the good years, and they would have plenty during the famine. He was so happy. Pharaoh made me his second in command. Later during the famine, my brothers ran out of food where they lived, so they came to ask Pharaoh for some food. He sent them to me. They didn't remember who I was. I was really mad at them at first for selling me into slavery, but then I forgave them. I asked them to take my bones home after I died. Even though I went through some really bad times, God never left me and I never left God. He had a really good plan for my life, and I saved many peoples from starvation. Who am I?
I was one of the 7 judges from the Old Testament. I rendered my judgment underneath a palm tree. Men came to me for help and advice, and to listen to the Lord's commands. I was a very good leader. I was married to Lapidoth. One man named Barak respected me so much that he wouldn't go into battle without me. I told Barak I would go into battle, but the victory would be credited to a woman. We made a really good team. Under the leadership of me and Barak, the Israelite army defeated the Canaanites. I was the fourth judge, and I judged for 40 years. I died in the year 1067 BC, or so we believe. I have influenced many people and continue to influence people today. I never questioned God's voice or wondered what others would say. I simply just had the faith to do what God ordered. Whether people follow or not is not my concern, I said. My concern is only doing what the Lord tells me to do and not letting anything get in the way of that. A man named Sisera had fled away to the tent of Jael. Jael came out of her tent and said to him, "Turn aside, my lord. Turn aside to me. Have no fear." So he went into her tent and asked her for a bit of water. She opened a skin of milk and gave him a drink, then covered him with a rug. He told her to guard the entrance, but Jael took a tent peg and a hammer and drove the tent peg into his temple. He died. I was a good leader and did everything the Lord asked of me. He never left my side. Who am I?
My mother Hannah and my father Elkanah could not have children. My mother wanted a child, so she prayed to God for me. She prayed that if she had a child, she would dedicate its life to God. God heard her prayer and gave her and her husband me. I lived in a temple with the high priest Eli. One night in the temple, God called me 3 times. The first 2 times, I thought it was Eli. The second time, Eli said, "It's God calling you." Next time, answer by saying, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." Next time God called, I answered. Later on in my life, Eli died, so I became the high priest. The people of Israel asked for a king, so I anointed Saul. Saul did not listen to God, so God abandoned him and told me to anoint David as king. After that, I died of old age, but it wasn't the last time I was seen. God called me back from the dead to help Saul. Who am I?
My father was named Lamech. My wife and I had 3 children, and I lived to be 950 years old. My 3 children were named Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Among all the wicked people in the world, I tried to do right. I also taught my children to do right. God talked to me. He told me to build an ark to live through his plan to flood the earth, to rid the world of wicked sinners. People laughed at me for building an ark, for there was no water for it. I tried to warn them to repent of their wicked sins, for God was planning on flooding the earth, but they just made fun of me, calling me a liar. Slowly, over the course of 40 days and 40 nights of rain, the world slowly flooded while the ark rose higher and higher until the rain stopped. On the ark, there were 2 of each animal, 1 male and 1 female. There were also 8 people, me, my wife, and my 3 children and their wives. After another 40 days and 40 nights of letting a dove go out and search her land, the dove brought back an olive tree branch. God promised me he would never flood the earth again, and asked me to remind men of his promise, he made a rainbow in the sky. Who am I?
My father Manoah and his wife wanted a son, and we served the Lord. Because there was idol worship among the Israelites, lots of people worshipped a god called Dagon. These people were the cruel Philistines. For 40 years, they ruled the tribes of Israel. My parents prayed for God for a son, and an angel told them they would have a son. The angel told them they were never to cut my hair, because my hair was a sign that I belonged to God. My parents offered burnt offerings to the Lord when they were blessed with me. I belong to God. I am called a Nazarite. When I grew up, I was very strong, and I married a woman named Timnah, but I didn't really love her, so I married a Philistine woman named Delilah. And the Philistines wanted to know where
I got my strength, and they tried many times to trick me into telling them my secret. When they finally tricked me enough times, I finally told Delilah that I would lose my strength if my hair got cut. The Philistines captured me and poked my eyes out, so I was blind. They had a big feast and made fun of me, and by then my hair had grown out, and I grabbed the pillars holding up the palace, and God gave me strength to pull the pillars down. All the Philistines in it died. I died too. Who am I?